Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. Hello. I'm not sure. Is this microphone? Okay. We're good? We're good. Thank you. Whatever you think. So, I don't know if you can hear if you're online. We are in the Zendo. We are bathed in the sound of a very large array of chimes. Oh my. Wow. So I realize I don't really like to do an ASMR Dharma talk. So I'm more of I'm used to projecting my voice. So if you can bring it down a little bit, that will be good. Otherwise I'll be like, oh, so then the Buddha said. But we actually do have this beautiful array of sound. So we're going to have this wind chime installation outside the Zendo for the next few weeks. And there'll be I think a presentation about it next week. Yeah. And there's information you can read on the back and in the front, on the back and next to the chimes themselves. So today I've given this talk the title, The Heart Sutra, Compassion, Non-Self and No Self. So I remember one person who was starting to do Dharma talks here at one point. He would just get to a point in the talk and he'd be like, oh, time's up. And then he would just stop. So I gave myself so much material today that might have to happen. So we'll see. So the Heart Sutra is, one of the most central texts of the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, if not the most central text. It's chanted here at this Zen Center 5 mornings a week. During sessions, we chant it a couple times a day usually. In many other Buddhist traditions, Mahayana traditions, they'll also chant this regularly. You could probably fill a library with books and commentaries on the Heart Sutra. So it's an influential thing. I met a wonderful monk named Kanho in Japan last year who he performs the Heart Sutra with a band and travels all over Asia doing these concert performances. And it's really amazing to see, hear the sound and also just see the reactions of the people relating to this text that is so embedded in the culture of great vehicle Buddhism. And so the sutra was probably emerged somehow about 1,500 years ago. It's called the Heart Sutra both because it has to do with compassion and because it deals with the heart of the matter, So the Heart Sutra is about compassion and how we can do compassion. So I've given quite a few talks recently. I gave a talk called How Do We Engage in Social Transformation? And then I gave a talk about cultivating compassion, which is one powerful way to engage in social transformation. And now I'm really getting down into like something from the Mahayana tradition about this is exactly how we're saying compassion can be done. So the reason we know the Heart Sutra is about compassion is it's the first thing you say in Japanese is Kanji Sai Bodhisatsu, which means Kanzeon Bodhisattva or Kanon Bodhisattva, which also means Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. So this is, in Buddhist culture, understood to be the ultimate embodiment of compassion. A being that is everywhere, always available, constantly hearing everyone's cries of suffering, and then reaching out with 1,000 hands, each one of which has the capacity to perceive on its own and contains a different implement for helping people. So just this sense that there's this unbelievable presence all the time of compassion for every single moment of suffering that there is. So in case you haven't picked it up on it, this is a very religious type of thing. So for all those people who are like, oh, I came to Buddhism because it's totally rational. Well, You'll be here for another 45 minutes. We'll see if you survive. Unless you run out the door, as I did the first time I came here. So, Kanzeon Bodhisattva. So when Kanzeon is invoked, we know what this is about is compassion, about caring in a way that really frees people. Because the text goes on to say, Kanzeon Bodhisattva, when deeply practicing Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all five aggregates are empty and thus relieved all suffering. And this is the joy of Mahayana Buddhism. Most of that probably made no sense at all to most of the people in this room. So one of the difficulties of having a religion that is deeply embedded in a rationalist philosophy is that it's complicated. So the Heart Sutra itself is a very complex proof about the nature of how things are and why that matters to compassion. And so most people in the world don't even think about the proof at all or the content of the sutra. You hear Kanzeon and you hear all this stuff and you hear everyone chanting and you get to like, and what Kanzeon is seeing that everything is empty and seeing everything empty is Prajnaparamita, and that's just great. It's wonderful. And you go, oh, thank God. So if I say some things that seem incomprehensible, you can just come back to being like, this guy may not make much sense, and this tradition is weird, but at least they really care. And what they care about is caring. So Kanzeon's method, it says, relieved all suffering, or relieves all suffering. Technically, the Chinese character, it means to cross over. To character, what Kanzeon does is crosses everyone over, which is carries them over the river from the bank of suffering to the bank of liberation and peace. But in the translation we have, we say relieves all suffering. So the method that Kanzeon uses is seeing that everything is empty. And the entire sutra is about the fact that what we're saying is the most powerful and effective method for manifesting compassion is that seeing everything is empty. Empty of what? Well, common way to say it is separate, lasting existence. Another way to think of it is empty of all the things you think that it is. That is to say, it's completely beyond all your ideas about it. Way beyond. You look at a person and you think, I know you. Do you really know that? They have a profound history. If I look at my own self, do I really know what I am? It's a ridiculous claim. I mean, I enjoy ridiculous claims. I may make several during this talk. It's okay. So, by invoking compassion in this methodology of seeing that things are beyond all our ideas about them or don't have any separate lasting self, this sutra is invoking two principal things. The sense that compassion is here already for you. Kanzeon Avalokiteshvara is there for you. My guess is that you suffer. And this sutra is saying you can invoke Kanzeon. Help me. See me. You are already seen. Also, the sutra is invoking the fact that you have the capacity to do this. This is self-evident from what I just said, because you're already seeing your suffering. That seeing is already compassion, whether you know it or not. And we can aspire. We can aspire to make the conditions for this compassion to be more evident in the world. So the Heart Sutra is principally, although it is a didactic text, which you can, like I say, write reams and reams of commentary about the very complex philosophy, which is like 2 words can yield almost a book. Like if I would say, let's talk about the nature of sight, emptiness, and how that makes compassion. I could probably write a book about that. I'll bet you Haku Okamura could give like a 4-week course on it. So on the other hand, principally, the Heart Sutra is intended as a devotional ritual of evoking compassion, that compassion is there for you, that you can do it, and that is all totally connected to the fact that everything is beyond what you think it is. The ritual being the actual chanting of the text. I'm looking over those chant books. I feel like something may be coming. So just a quick thing, because something about the sutra itself, just in terms of its content. I would say the sutra basically has 4 sections. It has the section that defines the context in which the sutra is being narrated. There's a proof, like a logical proof. There's permutations, which is that proof is applied to many, many other things. And then there is an exaltation, which is just like, isn't this great? That's kind of the sutra. So it starts out with the context. Avalokiteshvara, also known as Kanzeon, Kanon, who is, by the way, female or male. Sometimes it's nice to use female or male for Kanzeon because they change gender, or you could say their gender because they're a singular person with gender diversity, or you could say they're because they're a plural being. So always refer to Kanzeon, Avalokiteshvara, or Kanon as either he, she, or they, or something else. So anyway, Kanzeon is going to teach Shariputra, who's like the wisest, most analytical teacher in the early Buddhist tradition, how compassion really works. That's the context. The conversation between Kanzeon is teaching Shariputra. And then the proof is basically that form is emptiness, emptiness is form. All the other aspects of your experience, which we call 5 aggregates, are also characterized by this emptiness. So they neither arise nor cease. They're not defiled or pure. They don't increase and decrease. That's way beyond the scope of this talk, but it is a proof. So I'm just kind of, for those of you who like to, learn a little something, that's the proof. And then it just applies that. It says to say, this is true for all these other things. And the way it says the other things, it says like no eyes, no ears, no tongue. So that means tongue is identical to emptiness. It doesn't arise or cease. It's not defiled or pure. It doesn't increase or decrease. The things that are the permutations, there's a long list of things that we're going to say: no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind. Those are all the basic teachings of Buddhism. So this is the central religious text of Mahayana Buddhism, and its principal theme is that all the basic teachings of our tradition are not absolutely true. And this is one of the reasons I'm a Zen Buddhist. Because I just don't think I'm in the business of absolute truth. I'll leave that to someone else, along with the scientists. What makes science science? Realizing that we don't own absolute truth, and that what we have is a process. So we have the context, this teaching between Kanzeon to Shariputra. We have this proof. We have the permutations, which is like, we're just going to very short form say, this proof applies to all these other things. And then it just shifts gears and it's just like, and by the way, isn't this great? So seeing emptiness, that which Kanzeon is doing is called prajna paramita, or the perfection of wisdom. The perfection of wisdom is a way of seeing. And then it's just like, how wonderful and amazing is it that one can see in a way that you see through all your limitations, all the limitations you put on what you perceive, all the ideas you have about it, and just meet it exactly as it is with care. How amazing is that? And this just brings to mind something I said to a few people yesterday. We had our first Cutting Through the Noise event at George Floyd Square yesterday, which is a multi-faith meditation and social justice gathering. And I was just remembering, one of the things that has brought us into the square is years of relationship building And my co-facilitator, Gia Starr Brown, came to a Minnesota Multi-Faith Network gathering on anti-racism several years ago. And she talked mostly about just after George Floyd was murdered, she just went down to George Floyd Square with no plan or purpose beyond just being with people, just being with them, hearing them, caring about them, and maybe after a while, getting some idea that there might be something she could offer, maybe. And that has given birth to just years of beautiful relationships and work for justice and organizing vigils and all kinds of things. So now I'd like to do some chanting. And I think what I want to do first, why don't we, Aaron, could you maybe enlist a person or two to distribute those chant books? If you're online, I think we're going to probably have 2 people per chant book so people can share. If you're online, I'm going to invite you to get used to finding the chant book so you can participate in what we do here at MZMC smoothly. So if you go to the mnzencenter.org website, mnzencenter.org, on that website, there is a page called Resources. And under the Resources page, there is a tab called Chants and Services. So you go to the website, you find the Resources page. On that page, you find the tab that says Chants and Services. And then when you open it up, near the top of that page, there's a PDF of our chant book, which you can open up. And then you got the same thing everyone else here does. So now we don't need to look at this yet. So you can just, you do not need to look at the chant book. In fact, it'll be helpful if you don't. So having gotten your hands on one, I'd like to just do a little bit with chanting here. Couple principal elements of chanting. One, foremost, listening. So Avalokiteshvara, Kanon, what they do is they hear the cries of the world. Their name means the one who hears the cries of the world. Well, although Kanon is totally active in thousands of arms to do things for people, their principal activity is deeply receptive. That's like talking about Gia going down to the square. So listening. So I'm just going to invite you to listen to some chanting. And I'm going to invite you to keep your eyes open, but see if you can move your awareness from the visual field into your ears. Realize that your attentional capacity is trainable. And go ahead and practice listening. And I'm going to give another chant about Kanzeon. That's pretty brief. Enme juku kanangyo Kanzeon mamu butsu yo butsu in yo butsu bupo so enjo rakuga jo chonen Kanzeon bonen Kanzeon nen Jushinki nen furishin Kanzeon namu but Yobutsu en bupo so en joraku ga jocho en kanzeon bonen kanzeon nen jushin ki nen furishin. So when you are chanting, what you can practice doing is balancing this receptivity and awareness with the action that you're doing. And this is the way Avalokiteshvara lives, from this deep seeing that everything is beyond what they know, and an action that emerges from that. So then breathing is useful. I've tried it several times. So usually the body just breathes, but conscious breathing can be helpful. So for actually our whole lives, but it can be very helpful to use deep breathing in the belly. And this is really great for chanting. So I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your, like down here by your navel. And I'm just going to invite you to inhale and see if you can actually press your hand out as you draw air in. And then as you exhale, just let the belly fall back towards the spine and the hand just follows with it. So I'm going to invite you to take deep, long breaths where the focus is this drawing air down into the belly, down toward the pelvic floor. You'll feel that hand pushing out. And when the breath is complete, you can just let the air flow out of the body. Navel comes back towards the spine. Okay, let's pause there. And now just let the breath resume its normal tendency. And so we are taking a long breath down in the belly using the diaphragm, probably. And now, what I want to invite you to do is use that same breath, but make the whole inhalation very compact. So it'll happen in about 1 second. And then release slowly. So a deep, full inhalation. And then release slowly. So feeling the same motion down in the belly as you inhale, but quick and powerful. All right. So now, when we're chanting, this is really helpful because I can say Kanze Onnamu Butsuyo Butsu In Buposo Enjora Gajo Chonen Kanze Onboden. So there's a little pause. Now, I practice a lot, so you might be like, that's okay. So this is about doing it exactly like someone else does it, but about developing a capacity. So creating pitched and rhythmic things is so deeply embedded in human culture in such mysterious ways. Some people would call that music. I say Zen chanting is very, very simple music. So but still listening and creating sound, so beautiful. So we just chant in octaves if we can find that. So we're all basically on the same note. And the idea is we breathe at different times. So there's just one interrupted sound. So if you took away all the syllables, it would just be like, oh, for about 3 minutes. So that is about to happen. So I'm going to invite you to find the Heart Sutra, which is on the weekday morning service. It's one of the first things in the chant book. I can't remember the page number, but sometimes we do this with a drum, but we're not going to do it with a drum today. Weekday morning service. Hey, does someone who's like hangs around here a lot want to demonstrate the traditional manner of holding a chant book in the Soto Zen school of practice? Look at this. If you would like to embody what we invite people to embody, you can do that. Like 3 fingers out, thumb and pinkies in. If you have a single sheet, we do it this way. Sorry, can't read it that way. Wow. Okay. So I will chant the title and then we can chant together. Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva and be practicing Vajnaparamita clearly saw that all five aggregates are empty and thus relieved all suffering. Shariputra form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form itself is emptiness. Emptiness is self-form. Sensations, perception, formation, then consciousness also like this. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked by emptiness. They neither nor cease, nor neither defiled nor pure, neither increase nor decrease. Therefore, given emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, body, no mind, no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of sight, no realm mind consciousness. There is neither ignorance nor extinction of ignorance, neither age and death, nor extinction of old age and death, no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, no attainment, with nothing to attain. A bodhisattva relies on Prajnaparamita, and thus the mind is without hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Far beyond all inverted views, one realizes nirvana of past, present, and future. Rely on Prajnaparamita and thereby attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore, know the Prajnaparamita as a great miraculous mantra, the great bright mantra, the supreme mantra, the incomparable mantra, which removes all suffering and is true, not false. Therefore, we proclaim the Prajnaparamita, the mantra that says Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parasamgate, Bodhisattva. May all the benefit of this recitation be an offering for the liberation of all beings throughout space and time. All right. Thank you for that. I love hearing people voice this together. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. We used to sing, "This land is your land" when I was a little kid, and I was so happy. It still makes me happy. Some things don't change too much. So, I want to talk a little bit now about like a very particular thing about the Heart Sutra. So I want to talk about what I'm going to call non-self and no self. Non-self is the basic target of early Buddhist teaching, which is to realize you can't find anything in your experience that is yourself. No self is the Mahayana principle teaching, which is nothing at all has its own self. No problem. This has to do with the emptiness, which this sutra is about. Things are empty of self, and that's why boundless compassion is always available. That's the basic idea. I'm aware this might seem kind of crazy. That's all right. So first, though, when we talk about non-self and no self, it's so important to remember that although these are really important topics and the Buddha's teachings are always inviting us to realize them more deeply, they're always totally affirm yourself. The Buddha was very clearly a distinct person with particular characteristics. When he realized, as he claimed, that there was no self, he had a very particular thing he did. He gave up his material possessions, lived outside for the rest of his life, begged for his food, and served people as best he could until he died. He met his illnesses and his death, as according to the records we have, with a profound equanimity. That's a particular thing to do. And when his students would sometimes be like, "How should we do the path?" he would totally affirm if they had a slightly different angle on it. Sometimes he'd be like, "No, actually, that's not a good idea." But many times he'd be like, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, you do you." And in the Zen tradition, we see stories beyond stories of individual distinct people with unique and distinct characteristics, concerns, and needs. So it's because we say form is emptiness, you think, oh, that means form is erased. No, form is fully affirmed, and it's not what you think it is. Yourself can simultaneously be exactly whatever mysterious, amazing, particular, distinct, important, valuable thing it is, and also not exist. All right. They're just perspectives, ways of looking at things. The reason non-self and no-self are so emphasized is because we get so caught. We get so caught on fixed views. I have spent so much of my life being bound to fixed ideas about who I was and what I could do. And that has caused a lot of suffering for me and other people. And when I have been able to see through those ideas and be like, oh, it's just like this now, amazing things have happened. One of the most amazing things that maybe like I'm doing this practice. I had like this unbelievably contentious relationship with someone that was like, I would be furiously angry and obsessive for days at a time. And just like, how is wrong with them? And why can't they do the thing that, it's just terrible. And I was mean to them and it was awful. And one day we were just facing down and we're like, ah. And I was just like, wait a minute. I have no idea what's happening. Like my body is completely overcharged. My mind is making up, I don't even know what things I should like argue about. My heart is utterly broken. I feel so alienated right now. And this person is suffering so profoundly in front of me. And there's a bunch of trees behind them. I can still picture it vividly. And the whole energy of argumentation just fell away. And I was just brokenhearted with them. So early Buddhist teachings are going to emphasize seeing that if you look at the field of your experience, you can't find anything that is lasting, truly lasting, or separate from other things. Everything is interdependently arising. The emphasis is on looking at the self. And there's a very common, the Buddha is always saying you should view this, say that this is not me, this is not mine, and this is not myself. It's actually a really interesting practice. This is not me, this is not mine, this is myself. You know, when you're just like, I am like this, just be like, no, that's just something that's happening. Even your body belongs to the universe preciously. That doesn't make it less precious, it makes it more precious. So there's many, many, many methodologies, proofs, all kinds, I mean, like huge amounts of literature, years of meditation people have practiced in realizing this, but I'll just give you like a way maybe to glimpse it. I'm just going to invite you to imagine you're down at the, you've walked down the Minnehaha Creek to the confluence with the Mississippi River. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a very beautiful place. And you can see the creek coming into the river and dogs running around and so forth. But you might look at the river and be like, oh, it's the Mississippi River. Seen that and walk away. That could happen. Well, maybe let's say you just sit down and you really just watch and it's dawn and there's mist rising off the river, rising off the creek, or so it would seem. And you might just have a moment where instead of seeing the Mississippi River, there's just what we would normally call water. And it's, where's the boundary between the creek and the river? Where is the boundary between the mist and the water? And there might be just a moment of not really knowing and not naming. And maybe even a sense of how those things are. And if you were thinking about it, you might be like, but wait, the mist is going to go in the sky and then come back down. Then it's going to go. There's no end to how far that view can go. There's no limit. But when we're looking at the self, we can see this. It's hard to do if you don't make a profound commitment to meditation practice. It's really hard to do. I think it's possible, but I think it helps to just slow down and just see what's here. Continually opening the hand of thought, and a new view can emerge. So in early Buddhist teachings, there is this emphasis on seeing non-self. This phenomena is non-self. Like my thoughts are just something that's happening. They're non-self. Even like my feelings, I'd be like, it's my feeling. I actually think it's a little more helpful to be like, wow, there's anger here. You know, wow, there's something to take care of. Or there's despair here. I don't know if anyone's felt any of that lately. So it's a little bit of softening of that holding. So the big shift of the Heart Sutra, or what is philosophical claim, is saying we can apply this same view, not just to the contents of the self, but to everything in our field of experience. So it's not just true that my sense of awareness is not myself, and my thoughts are not myself, and my body is not myself, but they're just part of some beautiful, ever-evolving flux. But that everything else is like that too. That everything seen, everything heard, everything smelled, tasted, touched, remembered, conceived of in any possible way, anything that the mind has turned into something separate, you can look at it in the way you can look at the Mississippi River at dawn at the confluence of the Minnehaha Creek, and you can see. And you can use, I'm using words to try and evoke something. And that's basically what Mahayana Buddhist teachings are about. But they are trying to evoke something that people see and then want to help other people see. Because when they see it, a vast and boundless compassion is there. Because you're only seeing connection. You see no alienation, only connection and relationship. So these are things that we can practice. We can cultivate the conditions so they are seen. You might be like, I'd like to cultivate the conditions so I will see them. Okay, that's motivating. That's cool. But who is this I that is in the future? What is that? That's the universe showing up in yet another new form. But studying Buddhist teachings, practicing meditation, using these methodologies, our method here is so simple. Just sit, bring some energy to the body. If your mind is very busy, just notice the breath in the body. And otherwise, just open the hand of thought. We're already only here with everything. There's never an alternative. Can't make that happen. The only thing we ever see is the total intimacy of everything. But we just don't recognize it because we're busy thinking about stuff, getting stuff done. And I think sometimes people go, oh, it sounds so passive. There's so much to do. Oh, yeah, gosh, there is. My experience is people who commit to this tend to, compassion awakens in them. And they do things that are really caring and kind and loving. Every once in a while, you would even consider some of them to be conventionally effective. But there is kind of a trust to it. So conditioned to think that we have to figure things out and fix them. Judge them, fix them, control them. Judge, fix, control. We really trust that we can put that down and just enter into intimacy and then offer something again and again. All right. Well, thank you all so much. It's been nice to talk and listen to you chanting, listen to you breathing. That was fun. So now we have some time for other voices. Yeah, so questions are welcome or reflections. If they're reflections, it's nice if they're brief. And no matter where you are, it's nice if you speak with a full voice so folks can hear you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm thinking about, I don't know if anybody's heard about this, there's a ship called Madeleine that's part of the Freedom Flotilla that's arriving in Gaza maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, and it's filled with humanitarian relief type stuff, and there's people from a variety of countries. And I was just thinking about how following the passage of this ship feel in terms of just compassion. I think they're making this trip out of compassion is what they're saying, and they're like, people we think are responsible or not doing something, we're going to do something because we care. And it makes me feel so vulnerable. It just reminds me of the vulnerability when you're really put yourself out there. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about, like, is there a limit on your vulnerability that you should have when you're caring? I tend to be on that side. Like, sometimes emotionally to care too much, and sometimes that you feel like you need to protect yourself a little bit. And so I'm thinking, but thinking about that ship makes me feel that way a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get to choose. So there's self, there's non-self, there's no self, there's self. So each person gets to choose how you're going to practice. And it's really useful. So what this talk wasn't about is the early Buddhist practices of really knowing the contents of your own experience. But this is something we often teach about here, knowing what your body is like, knowing what your emotions are like, knowing what your thoughts are like. So you can start to see, like, oh, this is completely overwhelming. If I do this, I may not be able to do anything else for a week. You know what I mean? So really monitoring that so you're making choices that are actually conducive to your well-being. Or for many people, I think Bodhisattva tradition is really attractive to codependent people like me. So, and codependence really is about there's pain here, so you want to fix it there. That's the fundamental dynamic. So if there's pain here, care for that. That matters. It's part of what's here. If there's suffering there, is there something I could do there, but not in order to allay this? This should be taken care of as its own thing. So, but yeah, you should, I encourage all people to set the boundaries that are good for them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Great talk. And I appreciate what you said. That was really nice. You know, that line between that you're talking about between being informed and having peace is always at odds with each other for me, I think. And since all of this has been happening in our world, I have become more inclined to be informed. But I realized not too long ago that I was losing a lot of peace of mind. And so I have drawn recent boundaries of not reading my 2 hours of email and news headlines and everything every morning to start my day after meditation, because I can't seem to function otherwise very well in any area. And so I'm letting go of a lot of that. However, there's always that kind of like nagging in the background of all this crap that's happening. And I don't want it to be in the background, but I also don't want it shaping how I go through the world, how I function. And so I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions of how to do that. Oh, and I want to comment, I think Greta Thunberg is on that ship.
She is.
Yeah, to keep them from bombing it, hopefully.
Yeah. 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 I mean, people do amazing, amazing things from the position of radical nonviolent intimacy with the world. And they have been doing it for a long time. And that can be really inspiring, but we may not already all be there. You know, so we have capacity building practices. But to your question, one, I think it's a good idea to look at how we relate to the media incoming. And I will say, I don't think I'm very good at this. The other day, when they claimed it wasn't ICE, but I have seen photographs of people with ICE insignias that were down at Lake Street in Bloomington. And I know eyewitnesses who are like, I saw people with the ICE insignias there. Anyway, so, you know, I have a lot of activist friends. So I'm like getting all these signal chat texts, you know, and it's like, UNIDO says, I can't remember who, one organization is like, don't come down. And then another organization is like, we did all the bodies here we can. And I'm like, and then I was making soup, you know, so I was making soup so Colleen and I could have dinner. And I had this moment of just like, I don't know how well I'm doing this. And then I just said, well, I've been trying to track this for long enough. The messages are confusing enough. I'm not going there today. And I'm not reading those texts. So I managed to, at some point, do this is what I recommend doing. Choose where you are going to do things and focus your energy there. Come from a position of empowerment. Come from a position of empowerment. Coming from a position of like, oh, that's happening. I don't think that's what Kanzeon is doing. So finding that place where it's like, I'm going to do this thing, which honors my who I am and how I'm in relationship with people, and bring that focus. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Like that truck. You said like to do make a choice that everyone else is doing the thing that's right, and if we all do the thing that's right for us, then like that's what hope is. Like non-attachment to the outcome. You do what's right for you without being attached to how it's going to impact.
Yeah, I think that thing of like not being attached to the outcome is so built into the Heart Sutra, because the idea is there aren't objects. So I'm often talking about the language bell hooks use is non-domination. the language Gandhi uses and Dr. King uses, nonviolence, but all of them have to do with trying to not see the world as a bunch of objects to manipulate. But, you know, I don't even know. I will say this. I would love to trust that everyone's going to do something great, but I don't know. What I do is I focus attention on people who are doing things that are great. And that helps me to feel more stable and motivated and inspired. Whereas if I'm focusing all the time on people I think are doing things that are harmful, it does not evoke the best response from me. So thank you. I want to just pause here and see if anyone online would like to say anything. Okay, folks, I got a hand up right here.
Okay, at the beginning, you talked about, settling in your suffering. And also thought about like not filtering any of it out, you know? And I think that's where we said real intimacy with the, you know, just getting rid of doubt the labels. Taking all in, there's this episode on the show called Midnight Gospel on Netflix called The Annihilation of Joy. It's really good. It's really good because it goes to that idea, that complete idea that directing Buddhism, when you stop trying to run away from the suffering, you know, get out of this samsara, this prison, this samsara. I really like it. Love that.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, in one sense, like trying to avoid suffering is fundamentally the problem in one sense. And so it can be really, really powerful. I mean, for me, I'm mostly in this practice because I came here when I was really, really had a lot of emotional problems, and I just learned I could sit and be with them. And that was like, that is incredible. And then that allowed them to be seen and pass away. Having said that, it's also true that like all the contents we would think that are ourself or someone else are just stuff, right? That's what we're claiming that's what I'm claiming in this talk. And so I can't do it all. You know what I mean? Like if I was like, I'm going to put on 10 TV sets from all the news feeds in the world of terrible things happening. Maybe I can, you're not even close, right? There's like 7 billion people. It's going to be really tough to be directly present to all their suffering. Not really an option. And probably a little too tough. Also, even just within my own being, when nothing is going on, there's enough emotional upheaval that I cannot tolerate it. So sometimes it's like, oh, I just need to do something that enables me to get through this. And that's fine too. That's fine too. But we can, over time, learn that we have more and more capacity to just be like, oh, it's like this. I was sitting in a circle yesterday and there was some weird vibe going on. And I could feel the bodies of all the people kind of. We were like all meditating and someone was like really upset nearby and kind of like saying things that were a little salty. And it was just like, ah. And so I was just practicing like, I'm just everyone here. Oh, what's going on for me? What are all these bodies like? What's that person? No, it wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. So, thank you. I think I gotta move on. I bet you have a great one, but I'm supposed to wrap up and I'm gonna do my duty. So we can talk afterwards. So thank you all very much. It's really ever a joy, and it's a joy. It's a joy to be with you. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to the Doa.